You saw what happened in the freezing waters of the Trebia. You watched 15,000 men vanish in the morning fog of Lake Trasimene. But those were just warnings. By the summer of 216 BC, Rome was tired of bleeding. They abandoned caution. They assembled the largest single army the Mediterranean had ever seen, 80,000 legionaries. Their mission was simple: find Hannibal Barca and crush him through sheer, overwhelming, unstoppable mass. But some verdicts aren't decided by numbers. On August 2nd, on a dusty plain in southern Italy, Rome didn't march into a battle. They marched into an execution chamber. This is the Battle of Cannae, the 6 hours that changed warfare forever. Hannibal needed a masterpiece. He had 50,000 men, veterans, mercenaries, Gauls, and Iberians, against Rome's 80,000. The Roman command was split. Consul Paulus preached caution, but Consul Varro was arrogant, aggressive, and in charge on the day of the battle. Varro looked at the tight battlefield, anchored by the Aufidus River on his right. He packed his heavy infantry closer together than ever before. He didn't want to outflank Hannibal. He wanted to punch a hole straight through the center of the Carthaginian line. Hannibal saw this and smiled. He gave the Romans exactly what they wanted. He deployed his men in a bizarre, inverted crescent formation, bulging outwards toward the Romans. He placed his weakest troops, the Gauls and Spaniards, in the very center. But Hannibal's first weapon wasn't made of iron. It was the wind. The Vulturnus, a scorching, dry wind sweeping across the Apulian plain, was blowing directly into the faces of the Roman legions. As 80,000 men marched forward, the dust blinded them. They couldn't see the edges of the Carthaginian line. They couldn't see the trap being set. As the Roman juggernaut slammed into Hannibal's bulging center, the Gauls and Spaniards began to step back. The Romans cheered. They pushed harder, smelling blood, driving the Carthaginian center backward. The crescent began to invert, bowing inward. The Romans were winning, or so they thought. If you ever want to know what a fatal mistake looks like, look at the Roman advance at Cannae. By pushing the center back, the Romans had willingly walked into an alley of Hannibal's own making. Because hiding in the blinding dust on the extreme left and right flanks were Hannibal's elite African infantry, fresh, disciplined, and heavily armed with armor stripped from dead Romans at Trasimene. Simultaneously, Hannibal's heavy cavalry, led by Hasdrubal, had already annihilated the Roman cavalry on the riverbank. They rode entirely behind the Roman army and smashed into their rear. The African infantry pivoted inward. The jaws snapped shut. What followed wasn't a battle. It was an industrial-scale slaughter. 80,000 Romans were compressed into a space so tight they couldn't even raise their arms to draw their swords. The outer rings of Romans were methodically butchered, while the men in the center stood for hours, waiting in the suffocating heat and dust for their turn to die. At a rate of roughly 10,000 men per hour, the Roman army was dismantled. 60,000 dead, including Consul Paulus, 29 military tribunes, and 80 senators. A generation of Rome's leadership wiped out in a single afternoon. When the dust finally settled, the scale of the horror was incomprehensible. Carthage had lost perhaps 6,000 men. Rome had lost its empire's soul. Hannibal's cavalry commander, Hannibal, urged him to march on an undefended Rome immediately.
Hannibal, we must pursue them now. Strike while they're broken.
Patience, Hannibal. We hold our ground.
But victory slips away. We cannot wait. In 5 days.
In 5 days, he said,
you will dine
in triumph on the capital. But Hannibal hesitated. He refused. Hannibal famously replied,
"You know how to win a victory.
You know how to win a victory, Hannibal, but you do not know how to use it."
But you do not know how to use it.
Which brings us to the verdict. History often praises Hannibal as the ultimate tactical genius, the father of the double envelopment. And he was. The trap at Cannae is still taught in military academies worldwide today. But the true verdict of Cannae isn't about tactical brilliance. It's about psychological warfare. Hannibal weaponized the arrogance of his enemy. He knew Varro would rely on brute force. He knew the Roman doctrine was rigid. He didn't just defeat the Roman army. He used the Roman army's own mass to crush itself. He turned their greatest strength, their numbers, into the very instrument of their claustrophobic death. Some verdicts are handed down by judges. This one was delivered by the dust of the Volturnus wind and sealed in the blood of 60,000 men who marched blindly into a genius's embrace. Hannibal won the perfect battle, but he didn't march on Rome. Did his hesitation cost him the war, or was marching on the city a logistical impossibility? I've pinned a comment down below. Give me your verdict. If you want to understand the modern battles that echo Cannae's brutal lessons, subscribe to Whispered Verdicts.